Are you ready to find out what you should delegate first to a virtual assistant? In this video, I'm going to dive through the different kind of tasks that you should definitely be delegating to a virtual assistant first, and of course, the best practices on how to delegate them well. This is all, of course, covered in my book, Scale You, now available on Amazon. You can click on the description below, but I go on a deep dive through how to hire and how to manage and work with a virtual assistant and how to use AI with it too. Now, the first thing you should definitely delegate is anything repetitive. The moment that you get in your business where you have daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly tasks that you need to get done, that is something that easily you can start delegating to an assistant. And the biggest reason why is that these are now tasks that are for running the business, not growing the business necessarily. Perfect examples of these are the ones they usually hear about, which is like email management, calendar management, social media, bookkeeping. These are the usual things that they get to a point in your business that they're just there to keep things running, but not necessarily to keep things growing. That's why I don't recommend right off the bat that you delegate things like your sales, because these are things that needed to grow your business, and running the business can be a totally separate thing. So anything right now that you're doing that is, again, that repetitive cycle of like daily, weekly, monthly, you can start delegating that to a virtual assistant. The same thing goes for what I call routine tasks. So routine tasks are basically anything that's triggered by something else. So an example I always use, like onboarding a new client, there's always a series of steps that need to get done after someone says yes, or someone pays a deposit, or someone goes ahead and signs up for the program. There's a series of steps afterwards. It's not necessarily a daily, weekly, monthly thing, but there's a trigger. That's why it's a routine task, because there's a series of tasks that need to get done after it was triggered. Next are things like your communication and correspondence. And what this means is things like your Facebook messages or your Instagram or your LinkedIn messages. The first kind of things that arrive into your attention is not a continued conversation. It's not someone that you met at a conference somewhere and you're just continuing that conversation through email. Anything that is like people pitching you, people sending you first emails, people asking for your time and attention. These are things that your assistant can definitely already take over, because these are things that they can just go ahead and kind of start knowing and learning from you. What are things that you want in your attention? What are things that they can take care of and say, nope, not interested. No, we don't need your business right now, or this is something that we already do. Or for example, for me, even though I run a virtual assistant agency, I will get emails from other virtual assistant agencies asking if I need an assistant. So these are the things that easily, of course, no brainer, my assistant will take care of. And things like, hey, Leanne, we talked, last Thursday when you went to this event. I would love to hop on a call with you. These are things that, again, my assistant can take care of. But any follow-up questions of like, hey, I remember you discussed X, Y, and Z. Can you tell me more about that? Because it was a previous conversation from me and my assistant may or may not have context, these are things that I will still have to take care of. But anything else beyond that or before that, of like, again, those first conversations, people just reaching out or asking for my time, and my assistant knows how to respond to them, she is able to take care of that as well. Next is any tasks that are honestly outside of your skill set. So for example, for me, I know bookkeeping. I have to learn bookkeeping because I'm a business owner, and I have to start with learning how to use charts and how to use data and how to use all of that. But that's not necessarily my forte. Now, I do have a full-time bookkeeper for the business. She's not a virtual assistant. She's an actual bookkeeper. But depending on the size of your business, that might be something that you want to delegate first, because someone who has had that background might do it better, might enjoy it more than you have. Same thing goes with editing this video. Now, I do have, again, a full-time video editor, but my very first virtual assistant for 2XU was someone who was editing my videos at the same time as managing my admin. Now, as these videos kind of expanded, I've added the podcast, I've now hired a full-time video editor who's amazing, and basically a lot of what he does is outside of my skill set. I don't have to be the one doing that. I don't have to be the one cutting out all of these silly faces that I sometimes make when I can't think of the words that I'm supposed to be saying on these videos, because he's better at that than I am. And it's the same thing again for that first virtual assistant I hired for 2XU, where she knew how to do the cuts better, she knew how to do the effects better, she knew how to make sure that I didn't look like a fool on these YouTube videos. So again, delegate the things that are outside of your skill set. Now again, you might have had to learn them as an entrepreneur first. That doesn't mean that you have to be the one doing them moving forward, especially if they're tasks that don't really, again, give you that growth, that are mostly for running the business, not for growing it. Next is anything that's time-consuming research or data gathering. So as a really, really good example of this, every single time that we have a potential new client coming into the business, my assistant does a deep dive search of their business, what they do, what they focus on, awards that they've gotten, publications they've gotten on. So things like these, I don't have to be the one doing them. Plus, it makes it easier for her to filter if these people are going to be a match for 2XU or not. So it gives me a little bit of the breathing of like knowing that the moment I hop on a call with someone, my assistant has already filtered this person. My assistant has probably already talked to this person in one way or the other through email of like, hey, you might not be in a match, or like, hey, this is a perfect match for you. Same thing goes with data gathering for creating things like your reports, for talking to the different people in your company to get their data, their research of like how they're doing reporting. All of that good stuff, again, doesn't have to be you. These are things that your assistant can definitely start diving into and taking care of for you, so you only see the final numbers, the final data that you need to see to make a really good decision. Next is content management. Now, depending on your business, this might not be relevant at all to you, but for me as a content creator and as someone who is literally everywhere on social media, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads sometimes, of course TikTok, I am drowning always in different types of content that I've created. I forget half the time what are the things that I've posted before. So my assistant helps me manage a lot of that in making sure that I'm not creating repetitive videos and making sure that the videos I've already done before I can use on my Instagram, LinkedIn, repurposing every single time. And she schedules and creates a lot of my content as well. Now we have created a very nifty custom GPT that is trained on the last kind of 5 years of my LinkedIn posts, of my own best stories and practices of how I write really good LinkedIn posts. And she uses that to create LinkedIn posts for my LinkedIn and schedules and posts. Even when she's on vacation, things are still getting posted on my LinkedIn. So that's what I mean by content management, is someone who looks after your data, who takes care of your content, and also doesn't have to necessarily create new content for you. They're repurposing content you already came out with. So it is your voice, your style, what you want to say to your audience anyway. And it's just making sure that it is shared throughout all of the audiences, basically the platforms that they are going to be on. Next, and this is a key thing that not a lot of people think about when hiring a virtual assistant, which is creating systems and testing tools. And I've combined them a little bit because when it comes to your business, again, once the moment that you have a repetitive task, you can delegate to an assistant. There's your routine tasks. There's your, again, everything else that we just talked about. All of those should be created into an actual system that's captured, documented, and tested, so then someone else can take over that in the future. Again, as a really good example with the video editing for my first virtual assistant, when she left because she wanted to start her business with her family, which I was more than happy to, she made sure that every single thing that she did when editing my videos was documented into a standard procedure that I was able to give to my current video editor, and then he was of course able to upgrade things from there. So that is kind of the key essential thing, is your assistant's not supposed to be there to really create and build your systems for you. You are building it with them, and they capture it and write it down. Same thing with testing new tools. Is the cool thing about having someone kind of fall in love with the tool is that as they're using it, as they're testing it out for your business, is that they will take that responsibility to make it work for them. And since they're the ones making sure that the work actually gets done, it creates this really nice way where they're building the system with the tool that you're testing them out for. Whether you're asking them to look for the next best AI tool, a communication tool, some sort of graphic tool, you're making sure that the person who's actually going to execute likes the tool that they are using because they researched it, they found basically the pros and cons of what it's like to use this tool. So if you're kind of in that transition era where you're trying to figure out what to delegate to your assistant when it comes to having them use a new tool, just kind of have them deep dive through it, because they'll be more than happy to find a tool that works for them so then they can use it in the long term as well. And of course, you should definitely be delegating personal errands. And it might be hard to visualize what it would be like to delegate personal errands to someone who is very, very far away. But as really good examples for this, things like sending client gifts or sending gifts to our executive assistants, whether it's their birthday or their anniversary, things like getting things delivered to my place when I am in between traveling or I need to just get something done, or just researching or calling up suppliers, basically, depending on what I need or a project I'm creating. My assistant can do that for me, even though she is really far away and she's not physically here and she's not in the same city as me. She's able to take care care of a lot of the personal errands that would take a lot of my own time, to be honest, because I am still managing everything else within the business as well. Keep in mind though that it is your responsibility to give them your preferences. Your preferences might be different from the last client's preferences, so you need to have that clarity conversation with them to make sure that they understand what it is that you need and what it is that you want them to get done. Now, delegating things to your virtual assistant doesn't have to be this complicated, weird thing. Basically, your two factors of figuring out what to delegate first to your assistant is, again, anything repetitive and things that you're not the best at, because then you can focus on, again, that growth of the business rather than running it, which is both are vital to the business, but doesn't have to be done both of those things by you. Now, if you guys like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there. Comment below any questions that you might have when it comes to delegating tasks to a virtual assistant. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to build business from home, which you guys can check out those two playlists right here and the latest video right here. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and with that, small steps matters, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!